Here's that trailer. I'm Ben Irving, and on behalf of BioWare, we're showing you Anthem. Do you guys remember this trailer in 2017? Did you guys get hyped when you saw this trailer for the first time?
Yeah, but I mean, rip Ben Irving. He's not dead, but he's not in BioWare anymore after its original launch. So, while this trailer was great, it was fake news.
It was fake news indeed. But now he got replaced by Christian Daly. So Christian Daly's here to lead the development of Anthem 2.0, right, Ross?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Does it matter?
It does matter because he is no longer with the company either. So there's literally no one in charge of Anthem 2.0. We're going to talk about the viability of Anthem 2.0 and their ability to deliver on the vision that this game promised in this trailer. This trailer that duped everyone and got their money, and they ultimately delivered a shallow game. Will Anthem 2.0 be a hit? Will it be a failure? We're going to analyze this from a marketing perspective, from the game itself and what they're promising. We're going to even look at their stock price, Google Trends, how many people are streaming it, look at every single number and aspect of this game to determine, most likely, will this game be a hit or a failure? Is it worth streaming? Is it worth creating content about? All of that and more in this episode of the Digital Drop Podcast. Let's pay the bills. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io? Ross, you're on camera now. Tell us how we should go about this conversation, amigo.
Well, the first thing we need to do is just get it out there that all three of us love games. I don't think there's ever been a game that's come out that we're like, oh, we really hope this fails. Like we just hope this is hot garbage. No, because we understand that developers and the people who are creating these games put a lot of time. They literally dedicate their lives to it. And I only want to see those people succeed. But every now and then, especially as of the past couple of years, there comes a game where the trailer looks fantastic and it sounds fantastic. They do a great job of marketing it, and then it releases, and it's a complete dud. So let's talk about Anthem. Let's talk about this store brand Iron Man game. Let's talk about the viability first of Anthem 2.0. So they essentially completely dropped the ball on the launch the first time, and now we're getting Anthem 2.0. Eventually, I don't even think we know when we're getting. As far as I know, there's only, after 2 years of the game's release, there's only been a couple blogs and maybe a speech here and there about Anthem 2.0. So what are we actually getting from Anthem 2.0? What are the changes from the original game that dropped?
Well, I can make some comments on the release date, the potential release date of Anthem 2.0. Okay. A number of experts have analyzed it and taken a look at where they were at with their previous blog posts that they did and what they meant. And basically, in 2020, they were still in pre-production for the game with Christian Daly at the beginning of 2020. And so, if you were to guess, currently, they're probably in actual pre-production right now for the game. Not even production yet. So we're most likely not looking at, for Anthem 2.0, if we were to be conservative, 2021 off the table. 2022 probably off the table. We're probably looking at 2023 as being the time when Anthem 2.0 would launch, given how they had to massively change the game in all of its systems from the ground up, given how buggy it was from its foundation. I mean, in their blog posts, they have promised and they've outlined some of the stuff in the actual blog post, completely revamp the builds, the loot system. They're adding another class. They're adding additional areas. They need to overhaul the engine itself. I mean, this sounds like it's not just like a fix of the game. It's not just a mega patch. It's basically a complete reboot, a complete revamping of the entire game, looking at a multi-year, 2 to 3 year timeline to fix this thing. So they're promising big changes. They're promising to deliver on this vision that they pitched in this E3 trailer that captivated audiences and got us all to pre-order and buy the game. We're years away from it though, and my God, guys, the news that has been coming out of BioWare recently in terms of leadership has been very concerning, because who the hell is going to lead the vision of this and to actually execute on this vision moving forward, because they've flipped leader after leader after leader at this point, right, Perrin?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. We got an article from Forbes. Actually, Paul Tassi has been on top of what has been going down at BioWare for so ever since Anthem's failed launch. And if you want to get a good sense of whether a game is going to succeed or fail, it's always a really good idea to take a look at the development company and where they're at, where their team is at, and get a good idea of what's going on there. So quick recap, I'll go down through this. I'll try to do a bridge as much as I can. February 2019, Anthem launches. It's bad, really, really bad. August 2019, Anthem's Cataclysm launches 3 months after it was going to originally supposed to, with the game getting game setting practically no other ongoing content updates until then, only fixes. November 2019, Kotaku's Jason Schreier reports that BioWare is not giving up on Anthem. So even after all this failure, they're still going. February 2020, BioWare confirms a report from months earlier that it's working on an Anthem overhaul. This was announced by Casey Hudson, who would later go on to leave the company. So Casey Hudson, he didn't put this here, but Casey Hudson originally left BioWare after the failed launch. Then they brought Casey back to work on it, and they didn't really announce that or anything. It was like a secret. Oh, hey, you're out of the news now. We can bring you back. So March 2020 to November 2020, BioWare Austin's Christian Daly is revealed as the man in charge of leading the team rebooting Anthem, a team that is very small in size, about 30 people or so.
The chosen one. He's
the chosen ones. He was originally on Dragon Age, right? And they brought him over from Dragon Age to work on Anthem. But in just this last December, Casey Hudson and Mark Dara, Mark Dara was the one in charge of Dragon Age. They both suddenly left BioWare.
It's hard to keep track of all of these leaders that are leaving the studio. They're leaving so quickly. It's hard to even outline the timeline here with the flip in leadership. It's insane. Casey Hudson and Mark Dara are icons of BioWare that have been there forever. The big honcho, the head honchos of the studio, they have now vaporized as well. I mean, holy moly, Perrin, how are they supposed to recover from this leadership flip to make this game happen?
Well, here's the last key thing is we don't even know who's leading now. So
oh God!
After Casey and Mark Dara leave, right? Christian Daly, who is the Anthem lead reboot, was put in charge of Dragon Age 4, saying that he's leaving Anthem in good hands, which basically means, guys, you know what this means, right? It's not in anybody's hands at all.
Nobody's in charge. Ross, do you know who's in charge?
No, and I'm really, really tired. Every time you Google Anthem, you see they're gonna pull a No Man's Sky. Okay, let's stop that comparison right now. First of all, yes, No Man's Sky botched the launch, but they immediately started releasing out new content that they had promised originally. And while it should have been with the launch, that's still new content coming out. Also, Sean Murray never left Hello Games. He's still there. He's still running the show. They have the same leadership. Anthem, we're almost 2 years after the launch now, and it's not even in production as far as we know. Like, the fact that we're even really having this conversation about Anthem makes no sense, because I think we're at the point, would anybody be surprised if Anthem 2.0 was completely scrapped right now? Would anybody be surprised?
Oh, not at all. No,
I would be surprised. I would be surprised. I know you guys are going to dunk on it. You guys think that like it's completely apocalyptic. I would be surprised because I think that they know they could mine some money out of the Anthem franchise. They know that the brand has a lot of awareness in the market. They put tens of millions of dollars in marketing. They have a new IP that they already developed that people liked the IP. Just the actual game itself obviously had huge issues. So a lot of the hurdles that you have to jump to make money as a company have already been jumped with Anthem, right? They did all of those marketing and IP items. Now they just have to make the damn game. So I think that they would be really, really unwise to completely ditch the franchise and to just abandon it entirely, because they could make their money back and they could make a profit on this if they invest in it over time. People said that they liked the gameplay. People said that they liked the IP. People said they liked the world itself. They were very, very interested in it. It is very difficult to get gamers to be interested in anything, right? This game has that kind of magic from an IP standpoint and that magic from a gameplay standpoint. All they need is competent leadership in place to put the guts inside of the game. Right now, the game has kind of just got like a nice skin and a nice coating on the outside. They need to fill in the middle of it. And so if they can do that, they can make this into a mega franchise. I think that's what they see, and I think that's a big reason business-wise why they will not give up on this project. Or at least I hope so. Maybe that's my fanboy you know, part of me coming in because I played this game for 100 and 200 hours or so and streamed it every day, and I have high hopes for it. Do you guys think I'm putting on the blinders here and I'm just blind to the facts? Like, hit me with it hard here, guys.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think you are a little bit. See, when I see this game, it doesn't do anything for me, but beyond that, looking at it launch, they only sold, what, 6 million copies, and it was a complete botched launch. It wasn't anything like they had promised. And now 5 years later, they're going to release the same game and expect people to come back to it to make money.
It's going to be a different game. They're saying it's going to be a different game. Okay, like, they're going to improve it.
Then call it a different game. Call, you know, Anthem 2.0 just sounds like a software upgrade. It doesn't sound like a new game at all. You've already 6 million people bought this game. Most of them, it sounds like, were completely disappointed. Like, at this point, it doesn't even matter how many people are on the Reddit page or anything. If they all bought Anthem 2.0, congratulations, you're still nowhere near where you need to be. And we're talking about having new leadership come in. Who wants to take this job? Who wants to come in and be the leader of BioWare right now? This is exactly, if you keep up with the NFL and all what's going on with the Houston Texans right now, they couldn't get a head coach because the organization is in such disarray. That's everything points to the same exact thing here from BioWare. Honestly, at this point, take the loss. Take the loss and move your team over to something that can actually be productive, that actually has leadership in place. And by the way, this does not spell well for the future of BioWare at all, and not just because of Anthem.
Here's a question in chat that I want to kick over to Perrin. Could this upgrade be as big as No Man's Sky? Like, everybody's saying, are they going to pull in No Man's Sky? What do you think, man? I mean, Aurelia is asking on YouTube. Everybody wants it to be a Final Fantasy, you know, a 14 remake situation or a No Man's Sky. Do you think BioWare is capable of that at this point?
No, not even close. It's not even in the realm of like actual realistic possibility, because with No Man's Sky, you actually have a competent development company that has at least,
it's so savage.
At least you have a work environment that works. You know, at least you can actually like develop well and get ahead and get somewhere. The problem with BioWare is they still, after over a year, have not fixed internal issues that are systemic, that come clearly from leadership down, and that leadership has not changed outside of sacking the creative director, but then secretly bringing them back in, but then them leaving again. Like, that spells to me top level leadership has major issues, and the systemic problems within the company are coming directly from that. And without wiping out those leaders, you're not going to be able to get anything done. So, and you're not going to be able to complete a game that's going to actually be good. And so No Man's Sky did not have those problems. They actually had a studio that could creatively develop, and they had leaders that could get it done. And they proved that really, really quickly afterwards. After Anthem's failure, we saw a huge Kotaku bomb article about the internal environment of BioWare, how this, you know, the magic of BioWare was expected to just make games just suddenly be amazing, and where this was actually like coming down to like crunch time, and where crunch time for developers was so stressful that developers like locking themselves in the rooms and crying. So
yeah, those were really sad stories. Those were effed up. Those were effed up stories. Yeah. There
was a really, really eye-opening look to what development can actually be like when leadership of that company is poor. And we haven't had any indication that that's changed. In fact, we've had really glaring clues that it hasn't changed with the leaving of Daly and the leaving of Hudson again. When you have an abrupt
and
leaving
Mark
like
Dara,
that, well, Dara being swapped over to Dragon Age, but I mean, anytime you have abrupt removals or people leaving like that, you know it's over something dramatic. So that means the internal issues have not changed. They're still the same. You've got 30-some developers working on this game, but you know, it's like, what else are they gonna work on? Like, it's either work on this game or the company's done. So like, you got to do something. You may as well work on this piece of trash until you know there's something else to do. So that sounds harsh, and that is a harsh take, but this is always going to be a piece of trash until they actually get their company together and work competently. And this isn't to insult the ability of the developers who are working on this game, but they need leadership to help them. And if they don't get leadership to help them, their creative talent is never going to be able to be fully realized, because they're always going to be hindered by really, really bad leadership. And that is a shame, because there are some really talented developers working on clearly something special here, and we should get to see it. it's unfair to gamers that we don't get to see it because there are some people at the top messing it up for the rest of us. Rant out, guys.
I agree. Yeah, agree. Well, that was a great rant, by the way. I agree 100%. And there is a difference. And I said this before. I just want to repeat this, that I really, really wish that the developers got a chance to put the game out there that they were working on, didn't get rushed to finish, or whatever the scenario ended up playing. I never want a video game to be bad because there's always going to be people that will enjoy any genre of video game. However, what Perrin just said was absolutely spot on. Let's take a look at 2 years. I'm repeating this again. Let's take a look at 2 years after No Man's Sky released compared to 2 years after Anthem released. 2 years after No Man's Sky released, the game was essentially the game that was promised at launch. Yes, for a lot of people, it was too little, too late. I understand Hello Games deserved the criticism for that, but they had the same leadership under Sean Murray. He escalated that, and now No Man's Sky is a game beyond what was ever promised to begin with. Let's go back to 2019. 2 years later, right about now, since Anthem has released, and we have a blog post and maybe some words about, well, we're going to change up the loot system. That's it. That's the difference. You're asking only 6 million people, by the way, not a great sales number, to come back and try that game potentially 4 or 5 years after the initial release. I don't know. I am not feeling it. I hope so. I hope Anthem 2.0 is the best game ever made and everybody eats their words, including myself, but everything points to that would have to be a miracle to occur.
That's fair. Okay, so let's talk about this game as a trend to cover from as a live streamer and as a YouTuber potentially. You know what people like to click on? They like to click on disasters. They like to watch things crash and burn. Some men just like to watch the world burn. So let's look at the numbers on the popularity of this game and whether this is something that content creators could cover, influencers can cover, streamers can cover, and whether it's viable, whether there's even interest in this particular trend anymore for people to be able to talk about and capitalize on. I see that you have some numbers pulled up, Perrin, in terms of Anthem. Break this down for us because we can learn something really interesting from this one, and it spikes in popularity and then subsequent crashes immediately thereafter. Break it down for us, buddy.
Yeah, so for those of us listening or on Google Trends, we're just looking at Anthem, the video game, on a YouTube search worldwide for the past 5 years. And there are 4 or 3-ish huge noticeable spikes. The first one comes at that 2017 E3 trailer that we've just been showing on screen, where the interest after that was massive. They did one of the best things that they've ever done is that trailer. If they had put as much effort into making the game great as they had that trailer, man, we would not be talking about.
The trailer was fake. The trailer was fake. It was not the real game. Yeah. So yeah.
So anyway, the interest was bigger at that E3 event than even at launch. So and we can see that here just from levels quite easily visually. Then you have like another small spike. This was pre-launch.
It was a marketing push with additional gameplay and marketing activities.
That's what you assume a second big push kind of before launch. And then you have this like kind of double spike at launch, which tells me there was clearly some confusion, or there was like an early access type thing and then it like really came out, or it launched and was really bad and made news. Made headlines afterwards. And I think that last one is the double spike that you see here. This second spike is all the news hating on Anthem because of how bad it is, and the first spike is actually the launch, and that's what you see here.
That's exactly right.
Can you pull up Cyberpunk so we can see the comparison between those two?
Yeah, let's take a look.
I'm curious to see what Cyberpunk would look like if they had the same kind of because they obviously, like a month after the release of Cyberpunk, they completely dropped the price down. Yeah, look at that. Same exact thing. Okay, that's good confirmation.
Wow, it is very similar to Cyberpunk. Yep. You know what's interesting here, and what's coming to mind for me is that with both of these games, the idea of the game turns out to be more popular and more interesting than the game itself often. And then the fall of the game turns out to be more interesting and more popular than the actual launch of it. And so this is something that we talk about on this podcast all the time. For all the gaming creators out there, journalists, marketers, and what have you, something you can learn from trends like this is sometimes the actual product, the actual service, the actual entertainment, the movie, the game, whatever it is you're covering on your channel or in your content, sometimes just covering what's coming up in the future, or covering the downfall of it, or covering speculation or editorial takes on it is far more interesting than the product or the game could ever possibly be itself. And so that's why we're constantly encouraging you guys to think about new ways to cover the gaming industry in particular, to cover upcoming games, to cover what we would like to see, to cover things like what we want to see fixed in it, to actually be really, really honest and not just a shill for these games, and to be critical of them, because people want that sort of honesty from content creators and from streamers to be able to talk about these titles and talk about the kind of surrounding activities around it. There's a bigger and bigger audience happening for that than the actual games themselves. And I think a big reason why this is happening is a lot of gaming audiences are getting older. They're also getting more interested in how the stock price changes, how the business is going, how the culture at the company is going. And the audience for that is increasing as more, the average age of a gamer right now is 36 years old. What are 36-year-olds interested in? Not just video games. They're interested in business, they're interested in the stock market, they're interested in drama, and all sorts of stuff that adults like. And so I think you're seeing a lot of that happen here and playing out with Anthem, where the discussion of it from in those capacities, not just the game itself, actually becomes the real story and the real opportunity to grow as a creator. What do you guys think about that?
Let's take a look. We're going to look at what's going on around some of those things. You mentioned stock price, right? I think as we do, as gamers age and we do look at some of these items more, we were looking at these items more because they matter, right? Because a lot of those gaming companies that we liked have been eaten up by big corporations, like Electronic Arts has eaten BioWare. So now we have to pay attention to the business dealings of some of these companies, because it impacts what's going to happen with the games that we want to play. And if we're looking at the stock chart of Electronic Arts going back to 2019, you can see where this is a pretty small spike. Or not a spike, sorry, a dip. There's actually a pretty big dip before then too, but you can see the Anthem crash for EA is down here. So it did affect EA's bottom line, although EA's bottom line was already getting hit. I think it was bad PR for a couple other reasons during the time. But now we've seen it kind of come back up since then. So coming up to today, we're up in a much better position. You were mentioning this pre this podcast, AWOL, but they don't talk about Anthem on their investors' earnings calls anymore.
No, they don't.
Why.
It's not something that's discussed. It's not like investors are like, oh, hey, so EA, how's Anthem going? You want to give us an update on that? Like, don't talk about it, because for them, it's a sore spot. And at this point, I guess they're nice enough to leave BioWare on their own with it. But like, EA isn't going to worry or care about Anthem now, because Anthem has already done its damage, and it's not going to redeem their company or do anything good for them unless it starts generating sales. And until that point, they're not going to talk about it, especially with investors, because it's just going to spook investors off. And right now, EA is kind of doing okay on the stock chart.
Yeah, I agree. I don't talk about the shit I take every morning, so why should they talk about it?
So savage. I gotta be honest with you. I agree. Until Anthem starts making money, EA's not going to talk about it to investors. It's not going to impact the stock price. And so, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing here, they can't ask people to pay more money for Anthem 2.0 when it comes out, right? Because you already paid money for a broken promise. So what are they going to do? I think it's likely that they're going to make this a free-to-play game. They're going to make it a free-to-play live service game. And it's going to be jam-packed full of cosmetic microtransactions. And I actually think that could be a successful business model for them, given that one of the most interesting and best elements of Anthem, as you guys can remember, is the insanely detailed and really one of the best character customization systems of all time from a cosmetic standpoint. The textures they had, the armor they had, just the system they developed from scratch for this game for cosmetics was super, super deep, and you could see them making unlimited cash off of selling those as microtransactions, $10, $20 for the most epic looking javelins, and then they can just add content on a regular basis, add more raids, add more guns, and just sell people the looks and the cosmetics through something like a battle pass and a Fortnite style business model. I could see that being viable, and just moving this thing away from being a single player story driven game and just moving it to being a cash grab live service. That could totally work. I mean, who doesn't like having a super cool looking robot that can shoot nukes? I think a lot of people will drop a lot of money on those microtransactions. What are your guys' thoughts on that in terms of their ability to sell the game for another $60 or $70 in 2 years from now versus making it free to play and then just cashing in on a live service here where they can obviously monetize the looks of these really cool looking universe and this really amazing looking javelins. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
They have to do that. You can't charge people for the full game again, but again, you still have to get people to play the game in order to make money off the microtransactions. At the end of the day, you can put a scarf on a turd, but it's still a turd. Perrin?
Oh. That's an interesting analogy. I had to hold a second on that one. So, yeah. Wow. I mean, they have EA with them, guys. EA is like the king at getting money out of gaming consumers. And if they're having trouble figuring out how to monetize this thing to get money out of it, they can just be like, hey, EA, what's the best plan? And EA will be like, oh, do X, Y, Z. And you'll make tons and tons of money. Like,
yeah, EA's got them covered. Yeah, they're
good. They'll know how to milk money out of gamers. They've got the best in the business at milking money out of gamers. I'm not worried about that. They'll be able to do that. Like, and I do think you're right. I think cosmetics will be one of the ways in which that happens. So we'll see. But that's still not going to come for another. I mean, I would say 2 to 3 years at best. You've only got 30 developers on helm here, and they're working slowly at it. I don't think there's any priority in terms of getting this out the door now, and they're not going to want that to be any higher. EA doesn't care. They can actually take their time on this if they could get leadership right, and they spend the next 5 years on this. Like, we could maybe see something if they do that. But I just
in the year 2020, the year 2077, we'll get the game to finally come out. Okay, let's talk about whether we think this was going to be a hit or a failure. Ross, just give me your honest take. Is it going to be a hit or a failure as a game? And then also, like as a question B there, is it worth covering as a content creator, as a marketer, as a live streamer, as somebody trying to build some gaming avenues? Can you mine some viewership off of this title? What are your thoughts on that, Ross?
Sure, you can mine some viewership off of it, but at the same time, the game still may never launch. Like I said, we're 2 years post-launch now. We have a blog. That's it. A blog saying we're going to change up a few things here and there. No leadership. Yeah, sure, you can coverage it. You're going to get a niche market. It may actually be a good game to cover for a few years until they completely pull the plug on it. Honestly, Anthem right now to me is like the diet caffeine-free Dr. Thunder of soda. If I wanted to play a shitty Iron Man game, I'd go pop in Marvel's Avengers. So no, I'm out on this. I'm sorry.
Oh, Marvel's Avengers.
That was spicy.
That was spicy. Do you have spicy ghost pepper caliber burns for this game? What you got, Perrin?
Yes. From a creator's perspective, don't cover this game. You aren't even sure it's going to launch. Like, unless you cover kind of more generalized gaming topics and you want to hit this in a way that I don't know, you can drum up some interesting conversation, but you're not going to like go hard on Anthem because you're not even sure there's going to actually be a product here. And right now it looks even more unsure than it ever has been that this will even exist as a thing. So do not put your eggs in this basket because you don't even know if there's going to be a game. There are plenty of other items out there. This one you could wait a couple years until maybe keep an eye on BioWare's internal, business, how their development cycle is going, what their team looks like. Are they going to fix all the issues with leadership? If that starts to look good, if BioWare kind of redeems himself, then maybe you can start to look at this and cover it a little bit. But I would ease yourself into it, and I would not do it anytime soon. I'd wait a year for sure. But is it going to succeed or fail? Fail right now. Fail for sure.
2 fails on the docket. All right, I've got something different to say really quick before I give my take, because I've got a spicy take. I've got an interesting content idea I want to share with everybody. I want to thank our sponsor, Restream. Ross, if you could post that in chat. We are multi-streaming right now on multiple platforms because we're streaming on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube, and Periscope. We are exponentially growing our views as a podcast, and we recommend that gaming creators restream on multiple platforms to grow faster. Link in chat. You can get a discount if you use Restream. We very highly recommend it, and thanks to Restream for sponsoring this podcast. Let me just go ahead and say this. Let me once again ask you to consider this idea. So when it comes to covering Anthem 2.0 as a gaming content creator, what you can do is this. Bundle together all of the questionable and sort of like somewhat negative games that are happening at any given time. I think this is a like master trend that is going to happen for a long time, where there were games that came out and then there are developers that are trying to fix those games, right? And there's always going to be a handful of mega titles out there sort of in the pipeline that developers are trying to fix. then make a YouTube channel that is exclusively about these such games. So right now you can make a YouTube channel that is exclusively about CD Projekt Red trying to fix Cyberpunk and whether they're going to make Cyberpunk Online happen. You could also cover Anthem 2.0, is it going to work out? And you can also cover Dragon Age 4 and all of the drama related to that, right? Bundle these games that look like they're going to be really problematic. Bundle these games that look like they're going to have huge issues and controversies and speculation around them, and then make a channel exclusively about those such titles moving forward. There will be an unlimited supply of developers and publishers that launch too early with mega titles, and so you can cover the speculation and the what's coming up next and will it work out and will it fail content in an unlimited capacity as a creator. Whoever does this will profit and will grow a massive audience, because there are going to be a ton of people that are still sticking around hoping that Anthem's going to work out, hoping that Cyberpunk's going to work out, hoping that Dragon Age is going to work out, and hoping that the next failed launch is going to work out as well. And that could be your opportunity to grow and build an audience in a space where people will just watch you simply for the hope, and they'll also simply watch you for the lulz and for the memes. Ross, get us out of here, buddy.
Again, I just want to state that it's really a shame that the developers of this game did not have the opportunity to have their vision seen. And I wish all of them the best of luck moving forward. And I hope they get the opportunity to work on a game where they're actually listened to and not completely mismanaged, if managed at all. So that's going to be my closing thought from this. Obviously, we all have different opinions on Anthem. We'll revisit this in 3 years to see if the game's even released. See you tomorrow.
Savage. So savage, boys.